The F-35 fighter jet program has serious issues right now with availability and delays and increasing cost, and today we're going to take a look at that. My name is Max Villman. I'm a former fighter pilot in the Swedish Air Force, and as always, let's go. So we're going to start by reacting to Congressman Matt Gaetz, his interview in the House Armed Services Committee, where he interviewed several Air Force generals and also the Secretary, Air Force Secretary, about mission capabilities and mission availabilities for the F-35. So let's start with that and then react to it.
The F-35 is our signature Air Force platform. What percentage of them are fully mission capable today? Mr. Secretary.
Congressman, if you give me a second, I'm going to pull up my card and give you an exact answer.
Okay. Happy to.
Your eyes are probably
These numbers would probably be classified in Sweden, not open to YouTube, but yeah.
55% is the number we have for operational availability.
Full operationally capable.
55% for
Is that,
operational
do you think that's a good number or a bad number?
I think that's not a good number.
Failing.
I wouldn't put it quite in that category.
A D?
I'd ask General Alvin to comment on that. It's a number we'd like to see something.
Yeah, well, the reason I ask is because we got testimony that is a little contrary to that. Lieutenant General Schmidt, head of the F-35 program, gave testimony to the TAL subcommittee at HASC, and that testimony was that as of February of 2023, so a little over a year ago, only 29% were fully mission capable.
I think we need to talk difference between operational availability and mission capable.
Okay, so how many are fully mission capable today?
I do not have that number, but I would not dispute what the JPO has in front. And I would look
29%, so fully mission capable, 29%. You have no basis to dispute that, but you don't really know if it's true or false.
I have no basis to dispute it, but I would like to.
So you would agree that 55% is like a D, that 29% is definitely failing, right?
For fully mission capable, but the missions that they can.
Okay, so you have several different things going on here. So the congressman, he asked about how many percent of the F-35 program jets are fully mission capable, FMC, fully mission capable. But then the answer he got was how many that are operational availability. And operational availability is a lower subset of FMC, fully mission capable. Operational availability means that you are mission capable in some aspects and in some you're not. So you can use those that are operational availability. Operational availability, either they are FMC or they are MC, so mission capable. So obviously the higher you go, the lower the number is going to get. So why can't every F-35 be FMC? That is probably because they have some tactical systems. They are airworthy. If they have mission capability or are operational available, they can fly. They are airworthy, but they are not fully capable to do all the different mission sets of the F-35. For example, air-to-air and air-to-ground. Perhaps they can only do air-to-air because they're lacking one of the sensors or one of the systems that makes them able to perform air-to-ground missions. And this is important to track, of course, because you want all your jets, or as many as possible, to be FMCs. You can use them in all the different kinds of roles. That's the strength with a multi-role fighter like the F-35, that you can even switch roles in the middle of the air between air-to-air and air-to-ground, for example. So you can both strike targets at the ground and in the same mission also shoot down other fighter jets. That's the strength. And if you have tactical subsystems that are not working, then you can't perform the entire mission profile. Everything becomes more dangerous, of course, and it requires more planning and more things that can go wrong. So only 29% are FMC, or was last year, a little bit more than a year ago. And the answer they answered, the Secretary of the Air Force and the General, they answered basically how many are MC, so they can do at least one mission set. And below that, of course, you have airworthiness, so you can fly with the airplane. Perhaps you can do aerobatics, you can do pilot training, instrument flying, etc. But you can't do the tactical stuff. So the reason this is important is because if you can't have a high availability, you can't use the planes, of course, to go to war, but you can also not use them for training. And training is also very, very important. You don't want to do just aerobatics and instrument flying with the planes. You want to actually use them to train good complex mission sets against other complex and well-trained fighters. For example, going to red flag and doing those kinds of exercises. So you want your airplanes to be fully mission capable so you can also use them for training. And the congressman here, he talked about, he's from the district where Eglin Air Force Base is, and they are prioritizing the operational squadrons, of course, to keep them with a high capability, but then the test squadrons, they get lower priority, lower flying, and they probably also need the fully mission capable jets to do their tests. So there's too few jets that are with high availability to train everything that they want to train. So this is very, very important, of course, for everything.
And they're doing a lot of, there's a lot of mission there, but like even the guys who are also at Eglin doing test, they end up being at the very end, right? And I totally get why you want your operational squadrons to be the most capable, but then test gets put to the end, and then we're not meeting our needs. Like, I just think anyone watching this, one, would be surprised that you, General, don't know the exact percentage that are operationally capable, and two, I think people would be
shots fired.
Be surprised that it's 29%. And this GAO report that I found on breakingdefense.com that I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record, it says that the reason we are not capable is because you guys at the Pentagon have given too much power to Lockheed Martin and its subcontractors for sustainment. Do you believe Lockheed Martin has been given too much power on the sustainment of the F-35?
So Lockheed Martin is the producer of the F-35, so they have contracts to produce F-35s for the US and for its allies, but it also has contracts for sustainment. Sustainment means keeping jets flying, keeping jets mission capable, keeping jets fully mission capable, and also doing services. You need to do services, you need to do repairs, you need to do overhauls, you need to replace systems that have become too old, etc., etc. So that's the sustainment. Of course, there's always a mix if you do sustainment in-house in the military itself or if you use civilian contractors. And basically every Western Air Force today uses both military, their own technicians, and civilian contractors to help. So in the front line usually, like the turnarounds to do the next sortie, hang weapons and everything, is usually done by military technicians. But then the further back you go, the further after X amount of hours you do services, special inspections, etc. The further back you go from the front line, the higher percentage of civilian contractors here. And Lockheed Martin has been awarded a contract for sustainment, and the congressman here is concerned that Lockheed Martin is not fulfilling the needs to do that program. But at the same time, perhaps Lockheed Martin is the only one who can actually sustain this fleet. So they're in a sort of, not a good position. The US is not. And this, of course, affects Sweden as well, because all of our allies now, we're in NATO, use the F-35. So this is an issue that's important for the entire NATO alliance.
I believe that Lockheed Martin has more power than in some other weapon systems. They do have the contracted logistics system that was part of the procurement plan that was put in place 20 or some years ago.
Well, right, I mean, but it's not working. If the Lockheed Martin built the F-35, only 29% of them are fully operationally capable right now. We've all agreed that's failing. So now the question is, why is it failing? And this GAO report says the reason it's failing is because the fox is watching the hen house. Because the very contractor bilking the taxpayer for this platform is now in a position where they can't sustain it. Do you have a basis to disagree with that conclusion?
I have a long history with the F-35, and I inherited the program. I came into it in 2010. It was a few years into production at that point. And the first time I saw the program laid out, the schedule for it and so on, and when the decisions and points were going to be, the question I asked, and I'm going to quote myself, who's running this program, the government or Lockheed Martin? That was a...
So obviously the government and Lockheed Martin are interlinked, and the US and its allies has strategic interests in making sure that Lockheed Martin can produce high quality, top of the state of the art, top of the world, the best in the world fighter jets, of course, but at the same time it puts a lot of power to these big military industrial complex players. And in this, obviously, perhaps according to the congressman here, and according to also to Secretary Kendall, the Air Force Secretary, Lockheed Martin might have gotten a little bit too much power, a little bit too much to say, leading in lower fully mission capable percentages and lower availability of the airplanes, leading in turn to lower the lower capability to conduct war, basically. This is what we're talking about here. But before I go any further, please make sure to give me a subscribe and like to the channel so we can continue to make this stuff also in English. I do it normally on my Swedish channel, but I also like to do it in English. So if you want that, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing it with a friend, the video. That helps grow the channel a lot as well. And if you want to buy me a coffee, you can use Ko-Fi below. You can become a monthly member, or you can just buy me a coffee if you would like to support, and we can do more of this. So let's get back to the video.
That's a quote from 2010.
I think you have your answer, Mr. Secretary.
And we set up the program when it was originally set up under a philosophy of management called total system performance, which essentially gave to the prime contractor complete control of the program. We did not acquire the intellectual property to allow the government to come in and step in and control the program.
It sounds like we have...
So Lockheed Martin basically has still the intellectual property. So there's basically, what he's saying now, the Secretary, is that there's nowhere else to buy sustainment from, because Lockheed Martin owns everything. So they're sitting on... the Air Force and the entire NATO has made sure to buy the F-35, and now they can only buy sustainment from one player, and that one player is Lockheed Martin. Of course, it's a conflict of interest, of course.
We are still fighting that problem today.
Well, right, but that is such important testimony for us to hear. Every member of the committee heard that. The government isn't running this program. Lockheed Martin's running this program.
That was a question I asked.
Well, it sounds like you got the answer. What's the answer to the question, Mr. Secretary? Because only 29% of them are operationally capable.
We took a lot of steps to try to get that under control. I once imposed a production contract on Lockheed. I dictated a price to them because we couldn't get a negotiation done. I did a unilateral contract. Let them take me to court if they wanted to. They chose not to. Put in place program managers who were very firm with the contractor and insisted on performance. We've had some conversations with the current head of the JPO, and we've had conversations with the CEO of Lockheed.
I appreciate those conversations. I've always found you to be the truth teller. You're always very honest with the committee and straightforward. The problem is the tail here is wagging the dog, and it's not going to get better unless there's accountability for the fact that their planes don't fly. I yield.
Yeah, those are harsh words from the congressman, of course, but I sense his frustration. Of course, they want the best possible for their nation, and of course, this implies entire NATO, because everyone is using this, and even if those who are not using the F-35 are very, very dependent on the F-35 working as intended. And let's take a little bit of a look at the program as it is right now. When it comes to fighter jets, this is from Breaking Defense, basically a news media are centered around defense. This was published on April 16th, and the House Committee was from April 17th. So what basically is happening now is that the F-35 program is being delayed even more, or especially the Block 4. Block 4 is the latest block that they want to introduce up until the 2030s something, with new capabilities, and to make sure that Block 4 is working with all the, I think, 85 different capabilities that they want to introduce to the F-35 program, they need a new hardware and new software. And part of that is that the newest jets that come out of the building line, the assembly line, have Lot 17, that they have this TR3 upgrade from the start, and then you're going to back upgrade older jets. So that's basically what they're doing to do. And now the TR3 part of Block 4 has been pushed back more than 1 year. And then in turn, of course, all Block 4 capabilities are pushed back even further, increasing expense, increasing delays, etc., etc. They wanted to start building TR3 level jets already 2024, but this will not be done during 2024, earliest 2025 now. And this has already been delayed several years. Right now they are looking into actually cutting back capabilities from Block 4 because everything is taking too long and becoming too expensive. So this obviously, this is what they talk about here, to harness Block 4 upgrades, they need a new set of hardware and software known as a TR3. So you can never basically take an older jet, even if it's a F-35, and compare it to a new TR3 jet, for example. For example, when Austria bought the Eurofighter Typhoon, they were about to buy the Gripen, but then Germany put a lot of pressure on Austria to buy a Eurofighter Typhoon. They built they bought an older, so they bought old German Typhoons. I think they would call it Tranche 1, so basically you can use the word block, you can use the word mission set, you can use the word tranche. It's different words in different manufacturers, but they bought an older tranche of the Eurofighter Typhoon that can basically only carry IR missiles, so within visual range missiles. They couldn't do any advanced electronic warfare, they couldn't do any air-to-ground. So Austria is now using the oldest Eurofighter Typhoon jets that basically can only do air policing. They're not mission capable to do anything else. And so you can't compare modern, newer, modernized last level of Eurofighter Typhoon with one of its first, even though they look pretty much the same. And the same goes for the F-35. The first jets that came out of the assembly line, they probably can't even be upgraded to the latest standard because they have too old within the shell, so to speak, even though they look just the same. So having a modern fighter jet system is continuously upgrading it, both hardware and software. And what they have gone into a problem here is it's open source everything, so it's difficult to say. Of course, a lot of it it's secret stamped, but what it seems like when you read open articles and you look at these testimonies is that they have difficulties in validating their simulations. So what you do right now when it comes to building modern fighter jets is you have a very advanced simulations done. And then you verify those simulations with test flights. So you don't need to test fly everything if you have advanced simulations. You can do advanced simulations and then you do verifications, a couple of test flights to make sure that the simulations are correct. Because if the simulations are correct, then you know you can trust the simulations and you can move on with the next part of the program. But what they have gone into, at least what it looks like from open source, I have no secret knowledge or anything about this. This is just a guy in his home office speculating on the internet. But if you take a look at this, it seems like they are doing the simulations, the advanced simulations. Obviously, the F-35 program has access to the most advanced simulations. They're doing the simulations, and when they are doing the test flights, it looks like the test flights don't add up with the simulations. And then there's a big stop, because then it comes into flight safety issues and everything. So you can't trust the simulations until they are verified with the actual test flight, IRL test flight, not just the computer simulation. So they have run into problems here, and that has caused a lot of delays, and basically it's a halt. They need to probably build new simulation software, they need to do new models, so it's a very, very, very complex and very, very, very expensive, and of course, as soon as you get into this sort of hiccup, a roadblock, then everything afterwards is delayed even more, everything is more expensive, you need thousands of people working on these kinds of problems, etc., etc., etc. So that's where we are right now, and I hope this gets fixed as soon as possible. These are our allies now using the F-35, but basically what the concern is that the sustainment is not working as intended with lower mission capable numbers of the fleet, and also the planned upgrades is also lacking. So it's kind of a mixed, both things are working against the F-35 right now. So I hope they sort this out, but this was just to go a little bit in here. And I think I will end it here. And if you have any more comments, some of you watching are probably even better at F-35 than I am, so please give me comments if there's something you don't agree with, and also send me some more links if you have some good links, and let's get a good discussion going so we can continue to do these kinds of videos. And if you want to, you can also subscribe to the channel. That helps me a lot. Like the video also helps me a lot in the algorithm, and share it with someone else if you think someone else is interested in talking about this. And also you can, if you want to support me, you can buy me a coffee with Ko-Fi. You have the link in the description below. And follow me on the other social media. I write about these things a lot on Twitter, X, and you can follow me on Instagram as well. But that's all I have for today, and until next time, as always, fly safe.